Hello and welcome back to the Surfer's Library, proudly presented by Hillsborough Surf Club. I'm Billy Jack, your guide through the pages of surf history, culture, and legends. Today we'll be continuing with Stories from the Surf, The Lost Coast by Drew Kampion. Two different stories, simply because they're both pretty short. The first one is To Experience Surfing, and the second one is When Nothing Else Matters. To Experience Surfing. I felt an odd sensation even before I saw it. My father and mother were in the front seat, and I was in the back with my sister. We had just moved to California from the Midwest. Everything seemed strange and new to me, and I had been avidly taking in all the new impressions along the way. But then, quite suddenly, as we neared the crest of the long hill, everything changed. Things became vividly familiar, and I began to feel almost nostalgic. I knew I had been here before, and it didn't seem that it had been so long ago. A few flashes swept through my mind, extremely emotional. They seemed to be memories of dreams I had when I was still quite young. I was feeling confused, almost panicky, as we passed over the crest of the hill and started down the other side. And then I saw it, the huge, even horizon, the ocean of blue. Just at that moment, as I was seeing it for the first time, a car rode by us down the hill. Though I had never seen them before, I knew immediately that the beautiful sleek shapes tied to the roof were surfboards. My heart leapt and I grew quite agitated. "Look!" I shouted to my family. "Those are surfboards!" "Where?" cried my sister, leaning forward over the seat. "There!" I shouted, pointing at the disappearing car. My father spoke as if he'd seen it all before. "They do a lot of surf riding out here in California," he said. "Most of them are just beach bums, or kids who are afraid of an honest day's work. Dropouts. Now, over in Hawaii, that's where you get the really big combers. I remember during the war—" I didn't care what he said. It didn't matter. I felt strongly that at last I'd hooked up with something that I'd been waiting for my whole life. My father kept talking while I was in agony of impatience. He drove so slowly I couldn't stand it. I wanted to be there at the beach, to see those guys take the boards off the roof of their car. I wanted to see waves. I only had a vague imagination, or was it a memory, of what they were like. I wanted to see surfing. If they can do it, I can do it. But I'm not very good at physical things. Maybe I can't. I probably couldn't. And anyway, I'm sure I can't. But if they can do it. These worrisome thoughts turned over and over in my head as I carried the old board down near the water's edge, laid it on the wet sand, and began to wax it with a fresh new bar of paraffin. It was a gray, overcast day, and the ocean was the color of lead. The surface of the water was smooth and slick that it was like lead too. For all my nervousness, I felt I was almost acting a part, as if I already knew how to do this, how to surf, and I had to find out whether or not I already knew. The water was colder than I expected, lapping around my ankles, then around my knees. There were other surfers out in the water, gliding across the oily wave faces, paddling on their knees, sitting off beyond the place where the waves broke. It was all so familiar, there was a certain order in it. I slid up onto the deck of the old board and began to paddle awkwardly. It was hard to keep it moving straight, and then I started leaning the wrong way and plunged off into the water. My body seemed to panic with the icy shock. I struggled back aboard. Eventually, I joined the others in the lineup. The ocean was moving with swells that had seemed so small from the shore, but out here they seemed large and ominous. There was so much movement that was confusing. Waves were moving in, surfers were paddling in different directions, others were sliding down the humps of water, and the waves themselves were spilling and coiling and filling with air in their rushing sound. Someone saw I was new at this and suggested that I move forward on the board to keep from pushing water with the nose. Later, the same surfer showed me how to turn the board around by circling my legs in the water. He told me to wait till the wave looked like it was just about to break and then paddle as hard as I could toward shore. I tried this several times, drove the nose down under the surface on each occasion, and made several long swims up to the beach. I was numb with the cold and exhausted from swimming. I felt disheartened and embarrassed. I sat bobbing in the lineup, feeling a familiar emotion that all through my life preceded giving up. But a wave rose up outside, and the surfer who had helped me hollered, "Paddle!" So I paddled as hard as I could towards the shore, felt the wave pass under me and lift me, saw that the nose of my board was still above the surface, and felt a rush of speed. I struggled to my feet. The board chattered across the surface. The wind whistled in my ears. This was it, I remembered. After 2 winters of sticking it out through the coldest weather and the gnarliest swells, I came to think of it as my spot. It didn't break so well in the summers, so we went elsewhere, usually south. The water was warmer south, and that was nice, but it was never quite the same. The crowds were meaner, and there were more kooks, so I looked forward to the fall and the first northwest swells. We all rode shorter boards now, which was such a treat because they were so light to carry and so loose in the water. And we could do new things with them. We thought we were pushing the outer limits when we slapped them off the lips of 4-foot waves and roller coastered over the whitewater. Or we'd run way out onto the shoulder, carve straight back at the breaking part of the wave, then try to bring it around before it gobbled us. I remember in particular, a November evening, the sun was down, and there were only 3 of us out. It was one of those lulls that seems to come about the time of day when you want one best wave and it won't come. Finally, there were dark lines outside. A squadron of pelicans heading south skimmed closely over the top of the first wave. Watching them, I had drifted a little bit too far south of the reef, so the other 2 surfers got the first 2 waves. But the third was mine, and there was the joy of paddling for it with no one else to contend with, just the smooth hump of wave and me. I slid into it, and it jacked up to about 5 feet by the time it hit off the bottom. I jammed up into the lip, came straight back down, then carved hard and shot off towards the shoulder. I carved a deep, hard cutback and came back at the pocket, then wheeled it around and pulled hard off the bottom again. But the tide was lower than I had counted on, and the wave hollowed out in front of me about 20 yards. Usually I would have roller coastered or straightened off, but I knew it was the last wave of the day, so I pulled it up tight under the lip and went for it. The hollow of the wave was smooth and sucked out. I raced along longer than I expected, but then the whole lip threw out and over me. I was locked inside, racing along, just waiting to get nailed. I went further and further. The wave was like a tunnel, and I was way back in it. Ahead of me, the darkening sky was an oval framed by the moving water. Time seemed to stand still. Then I saw the planet Venus framed in the end of the tunnel, and I raced to make it. It was all clear to me now. Surfing was the thing to do, and this was the place to be. This next story is called When Nothing Else Matters. A rooster crows. You open an eye. Sunlight jabs in. You roll over. A mosquito zings by, banks a turn, and zeroes in. The swat on your cheek does the trick. You rise up, slip on your trunks, and go out onto the porch. The sound of the waves, you've become used to them each day, is louder outside. You walk across the dew-wet lawn to the cluster of palms that block the view from your window, and stand and look out on 10 to 12-foot sunset. 15 people are already out, but the waves are consistent, one after the other, so you run around to the side of the house and pull your 8-foot-long brewer out from underneath, take the wax off the window ledge, and head on out to the beach. The sand is golden and cool, a sweet, light, sudsy flavor in the air, surf and plumeria and your own emotional energy. Rub the wax and figure eights onto the deck of the red board, stick it in your pocket. Run down the beach, feet seeking an inch or two, the sand moist and grainy and warm where it's wet with the ocean. You come to the rip, wait for a wave to rush up to the crown of the sand, then run with it as it flows back to the sea. Throw the board down out ahead of you and slide onto your belly. Paddle as fast as you can till you're outside of the shore break, heaving and crashing and splashing out with the rip. A quarter mile in 3 minutes and you're working your way out of the rip and over into the lineup. Some friends are there, wet already, and they greet you with big smiles. The waves are perfect, one says. Another yaps in agreement. Way outside, you can see the cars parked on the Cam Highway. A bus just went by, taking the early morning shoppers into Honolulu. On the beach, a few figures stoop, looking for puka shells. Palm trees are thick at the edge of the sand. You are flushed with the run and the paddle out, exhilarated by the water. A slight breeze blows off the pineapple fields down through the canyons, sweet and winsome. The guy next to you moves, begins to paddle. You turn and look out to sea. A dark line approaching, a thick, fat hump of water moving soundlessly closer and closer. A bluebird, they once called them. You stroke frantically out towards it, praying not to be caught inside where your board would surely be snatched from you, and then that terrible swim against the rip. Closer and closer it comes, growing steeper. You and the pack of others clawing up the face as it fringes white water at the top and begins to come over, and your friend turns and strokes down the face at the last instant and is gone, into another world. Outside is another, larger wave. You paddle hard, fresher than the others. You pull out ahead and have time to turn while they're still trying to make it over. You stroke towards the shore. You are lifted. A deep trough sags low before you. The water descends like a wide slide. You feel it catch you, then hurtle you forward with incredible exhilaration. You take a drop coming to your feet. You drive down and down, carve around a surfer trying to make it over, but you know he will be caught inside and have to swim because the wave is already coming out over your head. You turn hard at the bottom and draw back tight against the wall of the wave and rocket along to your right. You touch a hand to the water surface. Your fingers flap and chatter as if from a speedboat. And when you turn to glance towards the shore, you cannot see it because the wall of water has come out over your head and surrounded you, and there is just a big, fat hole in front of you, and you are going for it, and definitely, positively, absolutely, nothing else matters. The author of today's story was Drew Kampion. Drew Kampion is a pioneering surf writer and editor who transformed Surfer magazine in the late 1960s into a countercultural force, blending sports journalism with humor, philosophy, and social commentary. Beyond Surfer, he wrote for Surfing Magazine, penned influential books like Stoked, A History of Surf Culture, and contributed to various surf publications and media projects. His witty, eclectic style made him one of the most versatile voices in surf literature, earning him a place as the first writer inducted into the Huntington Beach Surfers Walk of Fame in 2008. Well, thank you for listening along. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Until next time, keep your stoke high and your bottom turns tight, and I'll see you in the lineup.